After 11 years, Nintendo has finally dropped a new Donkey Kong game, and it's one of the best 3D platformers I ever played. It got developed by the same team that created Mario Odyssey, which is another game I had a lot of fun playing, but they went completely above and beyond while creating Donkey Kong Bananza. And to tell you the truth, I was never really a fan of the old 2D Donkey Kong games, but after changing the format to 3D, it's part of the main reason why I was so interested in playing this game in the first place, and it completely changed my whole perspective for Donkey Kong. But just as a quick warning, I will be mentioning some spoilers relating to the story, and I will also be talking about the transformations, but I promise I won't go into any detail about the ending. But starting off with the story, the game begins with Donkey Kong searching for Bananium gems at Ingot Isle, but a mining company called Voidco, consisting of Grumpy Kong, Poppy Kong, and their leader Void Kong, steals all the Bananium gems to fuel their meteor ship, which sends Ingot Isle underground. And later on, Donkey Kong teams up with Otterock, who is eventually revealed to be a little girl named Pauline, and she has a great talent for singing. And while on their journey, they both learned that Voidco was going down to the planet's core to get their wishes granted by wishing for all of the gold in the world. So with the combination of Donkey Kong's strength and Pauline's magical voice, they both chase after Voidco to stop their plans. But while going to the planet's core, Pauline plans to make a wish to go back to the surface, and of course, Donkey Kong just wants to wish for more bananas. But while this is a very light story, it's still surprisingly really good, and I never expected to like the story as much as I did. It contains a lot of big reveals and complex character growth, which is something I never imagined seeing in the Donkey Kong game. Also, I gotta say, I love Pauline as a character, and she's a great companion to Donkey Kong. Pauline starts off as a very shy but talented singer that gradually gains more confidence with the help of Donkey Kong. He essentially helps her break out of her shell, and she gains the courage to perform in front of a grand audience. And I really wasn't expecting to see any characters have complex character development, but I'm happy that they didn't just turn her into a soulless side character. And I really love how wholesome Donkey Kong and Pauline's friendship is, because throughout this story they both build a great connection while actively looking out for each other, and they always put a smile on my face whenever I see them interacting. It was such a genius idea to put them together as a duo, because they both have so much chemistry. And this might be a hot take, but I seriously wouldn't mind if Pauline replaced Diddy Kong as a companion from here on out, because she's a lot more interesting as a character and we almost always see Diddy Kong as a companion. I also thought Poppy Kong, Grumpy Kong, and Void Kong were great villains because they all have their own individual motivations, personalities, and specialties. And I thought their group dynamic was very interesting, and I hope to see them again in future games. And while this game looks extremely beautiful and vibrant, after taking a step back and looking at all of the scenery, I feel like the level design is a little bit bland and somewhat unmemorable. I just never found them that visually interesting, but despite that, they were still fun to explore. I am also a big fan of how they redesigned the look of Donkey Kong, because his facial expressions look a lot more animated and it gave him so much more personality. Overall, I really love the character designs, especially Pauline and everyone from Void Company. But what really surprised me is that Pauline is a fully voice acted character, and I love that she has so much personality when delivering her lines. And usually side characters can be a little bit annoying or excessive, but I'm happy to say that I never had that problem with Pauline. And while other characters are fully voice acted as well, they basically spoke little to no English, which is perfectly fine and makes a lot of sense since a lot of them are usually just animals or rock-like creatures. Also, the sound effects are so satisfying to listen to whenever you gain a collectible or break the environment, and I'm happy they brought back so many classic and memorable songs from older Donkey Kong games. They also added some new music to this game as well, which sounds pretty good, but I never thought any of the music were all that memorable, except the songs where Pauline was singing, because her songs were extremely catchy and just sounded amazing compared to anything else I've heard in the game. And from the moment you get thrown into the gameplay, the world is designed for you to destroy almost everything, which felt super satisfying, addicting, and fun to do. It's honestly really impressive how almost everything is destructible, there are so many ways to destroy things, and there's different types of terrain with unique properties. For example, some terrain can be slippery or hazardous, softer terrain has a lower durability and can be used to create structures, harder terrain has a higher durability and can be used to break things, and some terrain can straight up explode or be used as bombs. And the way you would destroy terrain is by simply punching things or picking up chunks from the ground to either throw it or using it as a tool to break more things. But I will say the camera can be a little bit wonky whenever you're digging into something, and you can also run into some frame drops whenever there is too much happening on the screen, but it wasn't bad to the point where it ruined my entire experience. And the movement of this game feels really good since you can roll, jump, climb, and surf on chunks of terrain, all while chaining all of these abilities together to maneuver across the map. And Pauline has a useful ability as well where she can whistle so you can easily find the main objective, track any markers on the map, or sing to break any seals. And as you're exploring the world, there's so many collectibles you can find such as gold, bananium gems, bananium chips, and fossils. And a good way to find these collectibles is by either slamming the ground, which activates a sonar so you can find them nearby, which also picks up any loose gold or bananium gems from the ground. And you can also dig to find treasure chests to farm for fossil and bananium gem maps, which tells you the exact location of a collectible. But the best thing about these collectibles is that they actually have a purpose. Once you earn 5 bananium gems, you will earn a skill point to spend it on Donkey Kong's skill tree, which is honestly something I wasn't expecting to see in a Donkey Kong game, but it's still a really cool addition because it's adding a progression system that gradually evolves Donkey Kong's gameplay. And overall, the world is very interactive and filled with different animals and creatures that you can talk to. They can give you funny dialogue, information about what's happening in the world, provide helpful tips on what to do next, help you find collectibles, and you can even high-five almost every single character in the game. And eventually you will run into fractones, which are basically rock-like creatures that can regenerate if you punch them, and you can throw soft terrain at them to manipulate their shape. And something else that I thought was kinda cool is that both Donkey Kong and Pauline can react to the temperature of the environment with their idle animations. There's also various shops you can buy things from, like different clothing, items, and more bananium gems. You can buy clothing for both Donkey Kong and Pauline to customize their look after spending items at the style shop. And what's really cool is that these outfits can have specific perks to help you out on your journey. You can also buy useful items by spending gold at the stuff shop, and these items can make your life so much easier. You can buy things like red balloons, which can save your life if you accidentally fall off the map. You can buy apple juice, which will automatically restore your health if you die, and other useful things like bananium gem and fossil maps. But personally, I never bothered spending any of my gold at the stuff shop because you can naturally find a lot of these items by just destroying the terrain, but I guess it's only there for ease of access. And you can also trade bananium chips and gold at the chip exchange for some extra bananium gems, and I would say this shop is really helpful for earning bananium gems quickly so you can easily level up your skill tree. And at some point you will eventually run into one of the many elders that will grant you the power to turn into a Bananza transformation. These transformations can be activated whenever Donkey Kong starts banging on his chest and Pauline starts to sing, and you can keep this transformation charged if you collect enough gold. And there's a good variety of Bananza transformations that Donkey Kong can turn into, and they all have their own unique powers that can be very helpful depending on the situation. But my favorite transformation has to be the elephant that can easily suck up all the terrain, and my least favorite transformation has to be the snake because the controls felt super clunky and awkward to use. But I will say the Bananza transformations do kind of feel overpowered because as you're destroying the environment, you're constantly getting gold, which is keeping the Bananza transformation charged, and you can basically keep spamming it. But personally, I don't mind that it's a little bit overpowered because these transformations are extremely fun to use and I want to use it as much as possible. You can also run into challenge courses, which are basically sub-levels where you have to either defeat enemies, solve puzzles, smash through terrain, or go through different platforming sections. And for some of the challenge courses, you have to exclusively use a specific Bananza transformation, which can be a fun way to play around and practice using a different form. And they even brought back some classic Donkey Kong levels for some of the challenges, and even though I wasn't really a fan of the old 2D Donkey Kong games, I still thought this was really cool, and I'm happy they found a way to implement 2D Donkey Kong levels for big fans of the series. And fractones could give you bananium gems if you complete their challenges like completing quizzes, playing hide and seek, and many more things. And you can also find bonus stages that can reward you with so much gold depending on how well you did during that challenge. But doing these challenges are great because they can offer a fun little break from focusing on the main objective while still rewarding you for your efforts after completing them. And if you need to take a second to restore your health, listen to music, or change your clothes, you can buy a getaway that will give you access to a bed, a closet, and a music player. And the best thing about buying these getaways is that every time you go to sleep, you can get some bonus health, and the more getaways you have in that area, the more bonus health you will get after sleeping. And if you want to listen to more music, you can get more music records by defeating random enemies. But what I look forward to the most is the little conversations that Pauline has with Donkey Kong after going to sleep at a new getaway. The conversations are always unique, and I love that Pauline is always showing curiosity about what's going on in the world. And the map is so useful because it provides a lot of valuable information like the terrain strength, you can place markers on your map so you can easily track something, you can teleport to previous checkpoints for backtracking purposes, the map is in 3D so you can rotate it around while zooming in and out, you can see the stats of all of the terrain you destroyed in each layer, you can reset the terrain back to normal after destroying it, and you can even keep track of all the Bananium gems and fossils you collected so far. And I appreciate that they took the time to add fun things like photo mode and DK artists. I took a lot of pictures with the photo mode, and it's funny because I usually don't engage with this feature that much when playing other video games, but this photo mode is really good and it had a lot of fun filters. And DK artist is a fun mode where you can use your imagination to create sculptures of anything you want, and while I believe this mode is a great addition, I personally don't care too much about it. But I still think it's a really cool feature that reminded me of those old Super Mario 64 DS minigames. And I would say the enemy variety is pretty good, but the combat is really simple. For most of the enemies, all you have to really do is punch or throw something at them, but they can still attack you back in different ways. And for most of the boss battles, they kind of follow the same premise where all you have to really do is punch or throw something at them, and I don't think any of the bosses were really that memorable unless they were notable characters in the story. And I would say it's in your best interest to avoid dying by any means necessary, because this game really punishes you by making you lose a lot of gold. But the great part about this game is that you're never forced to follow the main objective, and you have the freedom to progress the game at your own pace. And it doesn't set you with any limitations to collect a certain amount of collectibles, you have the freedom and choice to play the game however you want to play it. But once you finish doing all of the main objectives in the specific layer, you can go down to the next layer, and there are multiple layers with different themes that you can go down until you reach the planet's core. But after taking a step back and thinking about everything, this game makes me feel very overwhelmed, but in a good way. It gives me the same feeling of Mario Odyssey where there's just a bunch of collectibles scattered around in every corner, and it gives me the urge to look for every single one that I could find. And the gameplay heavily encourages you to destroy your environment, while at the same time offering limitless exploration. And even though it's not necessarily a requirement to pick them up, finding these collectibles is so fun and addicting. And I always felt the need to explore rather than following the main objective, and I'm happy they give you so much freedom to discover things in your own way. I also thought this game was pretty easy to get through, but I'm not really surprised because at the end of the day this game is still made for kids. But I did find some things pretty challenging, like finishing some of the challenge courses and beating the last two bosses. And I'm not going to describe what happens in detail like I promised, but the ending portion of the game is amazing, and it only got better and better after each sequence. But I gotta say, Nintendo has really outdone themselves because this game is so much fun and full of life. And while I never really enjoyed playing the previous Donkey Kong games, I'm really happy I didn't miss out on Donkey Kong Bananza. This is a game you definitely want on your Nintendo Switch 2 library, and I feel like it's gonna be one of those games you will remember until the end of time. But anyway, that's how I feel about Donkey Kong Bananza, but if you have your own personal thoughts about the game, please be sure to share them in the comments down below, and I'll see you guys in another video.